Hey y'all, welcome to the Dr. Dare Show. How are y'all doing out there? Come on in the room. Oh, that's Tabitha Brown's. I can't sing that. Um, yep. So our topic tonight is let's see what we got. Welcome. Come on into the room while I pull that up, but I'm gonna post it on the screen. Um, there we go. So yes, come on in while we get started. I hope everybody's having a good Friday night. Um, So yeah, old. Come on in the room. Tonight's show is are people who have been on welfare for years and years experiencing a generational curse. Not the people who need it. We're not talking about the people who actually need, government assistance, welfare, whatever you want to call it. But the people that are just actually just so used to being on welfare or government assistance because grandma was on it, great grandma was on it, great grandma was on it, and so on, that you just believe that's a way of life. So that's what we'll be talking about tonight. So come on in, and let's get started. Hope everybody is having a good Friday night. I had a long day, a long week. This week was like emotional. Like my clients were just like crying a lot. Hey, Tanisha. Tanisha. Yeah. Do you know that song, Tanisha? But it's really called Aisha. But I just called it. But yeah, this week has been a long week, y'all, and those numbers are going back up, especially here in Georgia. I think kind of all around the world. Hey, Karen. I am fine, Karen. How are you? It's just been a long week, like a long week. So yeah, those numbers are back up. So we have to be cautious and careful. You know, I got a new web camera. I don't know if y'all could tell. It looks clearer to me from my inside. I'm getting ready to look at it. You remember that song, Aisha? Oh, ow. So tonight's show again is about generational curses. I've often talked about this before in my own head and just thought about it and talked about it in class and stuff when I was in school. And we're talking about are people who have been on welfare for years and years experiencing a generational curse, meaning are they stuck in this curse because um, great grandmother was on welfare, great grandmother was on, mother was on welfare, all of them. You could tell it's a new camera. I mean, Karen, you could tell that it's a new camera, and it looks clearer. So hopefully it comes across. I'm constantly working on trying to update and get it to where it should be. But yeah. Oh, good, Tanisha. Good. It looks clearer because that camera on my laptop wasn't that good. So awesome. I'm gonna go take a look at it on my phone. Aisha. Now that song is in my head. Hey y'all. Oh yeah, it does look good. Dr. Dare Show. How are y'all doing out there? Come on in the room. Oh, that's Tabitha Brown, so I can't sing that. Yeah, cool. Okay, looks good. Yeah, we're moving on up to these times. Okay, I'm being silly tonight. It's been a long. I've had a lot of clients this week crying and just having a bad week. So yeah, it's been a bad week for people. Yep. So our topic, ooh, again, is ooh, people on welfare. And so when I was looking up this, a deluxe camera, right? Yep, it's clear. So yeah, when I was looking up, I was thinking about this topic, so I started looking up like generational curses. And all I saw was a lot of information related to the Bible. But when I was attending Mercer for my master's, even in the counseling books, they talked about generational curses and how they impact families and how people aren't aware that they're even in a generational curse. But have anybody out there known anybody that's all their lives known that they've been on welfare or some kind of assistance and they're just not working, they're just laying around and they're collecting that check, and you know they could be working and they're not. Yeah. Deluxe camera. So what a generational curse is, so I'll start talking. A curse is something that doesn't grow and doesn't go further. It's a personal preference. Hey, Chris. Yep. And I'm going to put you on that screen of mine right there. So, Chris says a curse is something that doesn't grow and doesn't go further. It's a personal preference. Yes. And I feel like some people, not all people, because some people do need the assistance, and we're not here to judge them or anything like that. And they need the government assistance, not talking about the people that actually need it. But some people, because great grandmother and grandmother and mother was on, welfare, they just follow lead and stick to it. Yeah. And I know of generational laziness. Yes, Mike. That's kind of probably more so what it is. And I don't know if you guys have known anybody, but I've seen people do that. And I'm like, well, how are you getting money and you're able to work and you're getting welfare and you're getting assistance? Karen says, I have seen 3 generations of families in welfare. Yes. And they're out there. So the definition of a general curse, it says it involves a pattern from family history that are repeated in a person's own life. So they basically just repeat kind of what Chris was saying. They repeat. They don't go further. They stay in that lazy pattern, like Mike was saying, and they don't want to do anything. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are, you know, cursed by this generation. Now, I was reading something. There's some biblical stuff about curses as well. About curses are tied to choices. You decide or you choose to be lazy or choose not to work. And I guarantee if we went into like a low poverty area and asked people why they were on welfare, and they would be like, I don't know. My mom was on it, so I just got on it. Dad was on it, or whatever, and they just keep that going. So yeah, there were 2 Bible verses. I'm not a Bible scholar by any means. Deuteronomy 13:30 and 19, and Exodus 34:7. Both kind of what I saw when I was researching relate to generational curses. I think a lot of the biblical stuff refers to like sin, and if you sin, you know, sin of the parents, the children are going to suffer. So if your parents sinned, then the children are going to suffer. It's kind of the same thing. What are y'all saying out there? Everybody's quiet and I'm talking. Generational curses. I was up all night. General laziness. Mike, where you been? I ain't seen you in a while. You staying safe out there? I grew up in public housing. I saw whole families, 2 to 3 generations, who have never had a female in the family hold a job. Yeah, Karen. So what was that about? What were they doing? Were they just chilling all day? What was that about? And it's sad though. Like I said, if you go into some of these low poverty areas, you will see whole families living in you know low income houses, and again, not judging and trying to nitpick that, but our people, well, that's a lot of white people on welfare too, so I can't even say that. People in general, I just want them to wake up and know that that is not helping you. That is creating this basically a curse, and you're not moving forward, and you're never going to progress. You're never going to see your full potential and the things that you could be doing, because you've just got stuck in this I say ruminating cycle, and you just going on and going on, and everybody, your kids on welfare, and grandma and granddad, all of them are on welfare. Okay, what we got? Chris says there are over 40% of Americans over the age of 18 and up that make money don't report income and get welfare assistance. Per the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it is in every race in this nation. Right, which is why I kind of corrected myself, because we all know that, probably majority of people that are on welfare are of different races. So I'll leave that piece out. But thank you for those statistics. Let me stick that up. So how do you think people can break that curse? How do you think, if there's a family and this is all they know, how do you think we can get them to kind of break that generational curse, and get off the welfare and go get that job, and it's a way of life for some. Mike says it's a way of life for some. It's almost like it's been taught by way of example. And that's true. And that's what people, when I'm seeing clients, the first thing that I do when I'm seeing a client is I always go back to their childhood. And I go back to, how were you living? How did your family communicate when things went wrong? How was finances handled? And most people, they learn everything they know from that childhood. So yes, social learning is what it's called. You learn from your environment. So I agree, Mike. It is a way for some. It's almost like it's been taught by that way of example. So how can we, the people that know this, how can we help people break that generational curse? What's some examples? What's something that we could, strive to do to help people break the generational curse? Because once you're in it and that's all you know, it's really hard to get off your butt, go to work, do what you got to do to support your family. It is a way of life. Way of life. And for those of you who've just joined our topic, I will post it back on the screen again. Yep, it's right there. Are people who have been on welfare for years and years experiencing a generational curse. Y'all are quiet out there tonight. Was it the week before that? We were on here for almost 2 hours. Okay, Mike says someone in the fam must say enough is enough. It will be the one to end this curse. That's true. But then I just wonder where that person gets that drive from. Where do they, if everyone in your family is not, on welfare, and nobody's doing that? Where does that person get that motivation from? That would be an interesting study for a dissertation or something. And so Chris says, all it takes is one person in the family to strive for success and do it. Then you can give the others a hand up, but not a handout. That's true. That's true. If we could get that one person to, take it forward. Hold on, Karen says something. Hey, Lamar. Um, Karen says procreating, then advised and pointed in the direction of state aid by the free clinics and or high schools. Social learning, I saw it growing up in housing. It's like there's no other options presented. Okay, so let me read that again. Procreating, then advised and pointed in the right direction of state aid by free clinics and or high schools. Social learning, I saw it growing up in the housing. It's like there's no other options presented. Right. Well, if you're in an environment, that's where you're going to learn from. And the sad part is it's hard to break that cycle. But I think a lot of people do it. A lot of people break that cycle. It's by military, going into the military, or you know, it's just God gives that one person to the idea that I want more than this or I want better than this, and then they move forward. So Karen says, the person who is motivated to say enough is exposed to the options. Yes, yes. So how can we get more people to do that? What could we do to get more people to realize that they, you know, generational curses are real and that they're in the cycle and it's just going on and on. And like Mike says, and I agree, Mike, you have to want more than your current situation. And Karen says, when I was growing up, welfare was called state aid. Oh, okay. State aid. Yeah. It's welfare, government assistance, state aid. Hey, sis, Donetta. Uh, and you say, I agree, you have to want more. Yeah, you just have to want more. But, a lot of people get stuck in that cycle and they'll say that they want more and they say that, they want to move forward. But then next thing you know, so how many people have probably realized that you're more like your mom and you're more like your dad? So with these people that are on welfare, it's almost kind of like the same thing. They look up if Cookie was the mom and she grew up in welfare and got food stamps and sent her little daughter to go to the store to pick up, groceries with the food stamps, and then the family was happy when the money came in every month because your brothers and sisters, you got that special treat or whatever. So all of that is kind of how that family grows up, and then that cycle just continues because you're like, oh boy, we get this money, family is happy, and nobody has to go to work and everybody's home, and oh, I'm just gonna continue doing the same thing. I'm just talking. Yeah, so I do think it's a generational curse. And so we said general curses are defined. It involves negative patterns from family history that are repeated in the young person's life. So it is basically just that cycle of going on and on. So Mike Wimble says, how many of them actually are educated, at least finish high school? That's a good question. I'm gonna look that up while we're sitting here. Good question. Good question, Mike. So let's see. Lexington Law. So the question that I'm looking up is how many People are millions of Americans face the financial hardships of losing jobs, not being able to work due to a disability, or supporting a family on a salary. So it's not just, that family generational curse. Sometimes they do fall into hardship. So we want to make sure I put that caveat out there. So let's see. That's a lot of statistics. So anyway, I'll keep talking until I find it. I don't want to. So Mike says how many of them are actually educated. I'm gonna have to look that up, Mike, and bring that back. But I'm sure there's some educated people that are on welfare, and we're kind of not talking about the people like I was just reading on that website. We're not talking about the people who fell into this hardship because they don't have enough money to cover things, and that's life. That happens sometimes. We're kind of talking about that family that's just been years and years and years and years on welfare, and nobody's trying to get off of it, and then they keep having babies, and then those babies grow up, they're on welfare, and then that child's family grows up, and the cycle just keeps going on. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Yeah. Ooh. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Anything else, y'all know? So for the new people that just got on, how do you think we can beat the generational curse? I'm looking at my new camera. Tanisha says, I'm not sure if it's much anyone can do to help someone out a generational curse. That person is going to have to want change within. Excellent point. Yeah, you're right, Tanisha, because and you every now and then a family that's in a low-income area or whatever, there'll always be one that'll just have that. It's almost innate motivation to get out of that situation. So I agree, Tanisha. It's kind of hard to get motivation when you just don't have it. So you could be stuck, and that's why people stay on welfare and their families stay on welfare, because it is difficult. So do you think, this is a question too, do you think the government should cut it off after a certain amount of time? Do you think the government should cut the welfare after you have been on it for a certain amount of time? And we're not talking about people who actually need it, who have disabilities and all of that type of stuff. Those are people we're not talking about. Okay, Karen says good school counselors, school workers, social workers, and community activists can influence young people to explore more options and expose those they have influence to a world outside of their meaning. That is a good point, Karen, because I think once you expose, and maybe that's our answer on how some people in the same family survive not staying in that generational curse. Maybe that's how they get motivated, because maybe they attended some program at school. They talked to a counselor or a social worker, and that counselor or social worker or school introduced them to the opportunity to go in the military or the opportunity to go to college. Here's the financial aid form, whatever. And maybe that's a good point, Karen. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. So do you think the government, though, should cut the programs after you've been on there for a certain amount of time, and not cut it until you get a job? That's the requirement. In 60 days, you have to have a job, or your welfare is cut off. For people who have kind of manipulated or overused the system, not people. Okay, Mike. Good point, Mike. I think that should be a case by case situation, right? And I don't want people to lose their welfare and then they don't have any way to survive. So that's not what I want. I want people that are able bodies that maybe, like you said, Mike, they have some school, some college, but they're still just not. They're still stuck because that's all they saw with their family, and they go back to that process. Maybe, a little push into that direction would help. And Karen says, there is the welfare to work program that was implemented by the government. I want to say under Clinton or George W. Bush. Okay. And I'm not familiar with it, but that's good. I mean, hopefully people are using it. It's just, I feel like some people just stay on it over and over and over and over and over again, and just, So Donetta says, I think that the system enables some because if they try to work and make money, then they cut off something, perhaps take away the food stamps they depend on to feed the family, or so then they are forced to make the decision to stay on the system. And that's true too. I forgot about that point. So it's almost like the system keeps you in the generational curse, because if you do go out and just get a job and you barely making it, but you still need the food stamps just to kind of supplement that, then if the job makes that worse and takes away your food stamps, so then you just say, okay, well, I'm just gonna go back on welfare and I'll be taken care of. So that's a good point, sis, that the system can sometimes keep you in that generational curse. So we know now that system is broken. It's broken, and that could be a point to keep people in there too. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Good stuff. Yeah, so the system can potentially be the thing that keeps us, in that system. It's just I remember seeing, even just growing up and hanging out with people, that the whole family was living in this one low income house, and then that once the child got older, or that friend that I knew got older, they would just go get another house in the same area, and that process just starts all over again. And so I wish the system wasn't broken, and that there was a way that they could cut you off, but you still are guaranteed some kind of assistance until you're fully on your feet. I guess that would be probably the ultimate choice. And Mike says the program requires certain standards to be met and gives a timeline, or you may lose your benefits. Okay. And I think that's good. I mean, as long as there's some kind of welfare check to make sure that you're not hungry or not able to pay your bills, or just until you kind of get the hang of it. So what about some programs that teach you how to balance your checkbook and how to balance your money, budget your money, so that you're able to make it on your feet without that government assistance? That's a good idea, and I'm sure there are programs out there that do that. But yeah, once you're in that generational curse, I'm sure it's pretty hard, especially if you're not exposed to another side of the world. I think Karen said that earlier. If this is all you see, I think a lot of y'all said it, if this is all you see and this is all you know, you tend to just stick with what you know. And that's the sad part. So, yeah. Anything else? Good stuff. What time is it? It's 9:01. So anything else? So what do y'all think about CNN projects Biden flips Georgia and Arizona, and Trump takes North Carolina. My siblings and I grew up on welfare. Thank you for sharing that, Pat. So how was, I mean, share what you want to share. Thank you for sharing that. Welfare by design also discourages marriage. If you are married, you had you have a second adult living with you, you are able to get. That's okay, Pat. Glad you're here. Um, you're not able to get welfare. Okay, and I think I kind of remember people saying that. Like, if thanks, Karen, for sharing that. If you bring somebody else into your, I guess, low income housing, and the government finds out, then they take away um, your benefits, your welfare benefits. Good question. Good response. Good information, Karen. Mike says, if you're making minimum wage, how what wage how is know how to balance a checkbook helpful? Because some people may spend all. I think I see what you're saying. You're saying if they're only making minimum wage, how is helping them balance a checkbook or learn that skill going to help them out of, because some people, and not all people, blow their money or don't, you know. But I'm not saying you can make it off of welfare. I mean, make it off of minimum wage. I guess that's where you're going. It's like they may not have enough. But that's where I was saying, like, if the program just still supported them until they were able to make enough to, pay for everything and beyond minimum wage. So I guess a good way to break this curse too is raise the minimum wage, right? Okay, Pat said you didn't grow up in low income housing. Okay. None of us are on welfare. So wait a minute, Pat. What'd you say? Hold on. Let me go back to your statement. My siblings and I grew up on welfare. I thought that's what you said. None of us are on welfare. I didn't grow up in low income housing. Okay. So were you saying when you were younger, Pat, that is that what you were saying? I'm sorry if I misconstrued. But yeah, Mike, you make a good point. Minimum wage, that's another problem. It's kind of what my sister was saying earlier. If you're not making enough, or when you do work and then the government finds out that you work and then they take the little benefits that they're giving you, then you're more likely to go back and stay on welfare. Okay, Pat, you say yeah when you were younger. And so how did y'all escape that, or how did that work out for you? Because one of the questions I asked the group was, how do you break that, living in a house where everybody's on welfare and that's all you know? How do you break that, in your opinion? We got a lot of opinions. Basically, like Karen was saying, that maybe the child is exposed to like a social worker or a counselor or some school program that shows them, hey, think about going to college, or think about going to a trade school or something like that. And here's the resources, the financial resources to obtain that. So yeah, that's kind of what we thought about with how to break that curse and get people out of the generational curse. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. To obtain that. Oh. So yeah, that's kind of what we thought about. Okay, so Karen says people in my neighborhood hid their spouses. The spouse had a different address. With the social workers' caseloads being so enormous, they really didn't follow up on who was living in the home. Yep. And I remember all of that stuff growing up with people that were like in low income housing and on welfare, and it would always be a boyfriend there staying there. But the thing is, the sad part is even though we feel like that's not fair for them to live there, but they were actually helping take helping to take care of that family, or on the flip side, mooching off the family, which making the situation worse. So Pat says we just never wanted to live having less. So you had that innate motivation to get out of that situation. Good for you. And the thing is, we're not judging the welfare system on here. We're just saying how can we help people get out of that generational curse? Because there's some people right now who that's all they know is to accept welfare and keep living that way, and they're probably not happy, and they probably just barely surviving. When there's another world out there, I get that minimum wage is like Mike was saying earlier, it's really, you can barely live. I don't even know why they still just pay minimum wage. And Pat, you say yes, motivation. Yep. But the bad thing about it being a therapist, everybody doesn't have that innate. They're not born with that motivation. So they may see mom, living on welfare. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. And then they just follow suit. So good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so Mike sharing. Thank you, Mike, for sharing. I love when y'all share. I know y'all don't I tell my clients that too. Thank y'all for sharing, because y'all don't have to share, and because I hope you know that this is a safe environment and there's no judgment. Hey, we've all been on hard times or whatever. So Mike says, I grew up in the projects in Tennessee. I saw some things, especially around the holidays. There were a lot of fams taking advantage of the system. Yeah, kids would have the latest and the most expensive fashion, but the following month coming to your crib asking to borrow some sugar. Yes, that is a good point. I gotta post that on this screen, Mike. So that's the problem I used to have too. I think me and a friend was talking about that. I don't know if it's Kelly's on here or not. We were saying some people that are on welfare and living on government assistance, I'll be eating steak and shrimp and all of that stuff, and here I am eating oodles and noodles, or and I'm like, okay, how is this happening? So thank you for sharing that, Mike, because that's the part I kind of forgot, but it is a part of why I say, the generational curse, because I think when the family does get that money, it's like the kids say, okay, well, mom doesn't go to work, and she gets this money every month, and she buys us these Christmas gifts, and they're nice, and we're keeping up with the Joneses in the neighborhood. So why go to work if I could do the same thing she's doing or he's doing and still get the nice stuff? So that keeps that generational curse going on and on and on. Good. Thank you for sharing that, Mike. That is a good point, though. Because I can remember even growing up, knowing people living they would have the top stuff, man, like Michael Jordans, and you know, I was a cheapskate, even as a teenager. I was like, I don't want that. I just want some nice, that my stuff is nice. It didn't have to be name brand. And I mean, it had to be, I don't know. Anyway, good stuff. Good stuff. I hit the button back. Anything else about this topic? So, and I don't know, for the new people that just joined, I define generational curses as it involves negative pattern from family history that is repeated by a person in that family environment. They just keep this process going on and on and on and on. So, yeah, good stuff. Anything else? Anything else before we close this topic out? Yep. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for joining. If you have any topics you want us to talk about, just send me an email, text me. If you don't have my phone number, always inbox me and we'll talk. Like last week, we jumped on different topics. We were talking about everything. So I kind of like that too. So yeah, if you have any ideas, you ever want to come on here with me, I got my little new platform up, so we could do that. But anyway, thank y'all. Enjoy your Friday night, and I will talk to you. Wait a minute. Karen has a long. Hold on. I was the first person in my housing building to go away to college. My parents and I researched loans and grants. My mom and I ran into one of her friends, and my mom bragged about me getting ready to go away to college. Her friend said, well, who do she think she is going away? You too good to stay here? I said, no offense, Mrs. Blank, but I know who I am. And yes, I know I'm too good to stay here forever. This is my temporary address. Good for you. Good for you. And good for you having good parents that supported you and knew that they wanted something better for you, because it's sad. I see it today a lot that some of the parents, some of the kids are the parents. They have to support themselves because the parents are not, supportive or just don't have the good parenting skills, which again keeps, if you don't have that innate motivation, you're going to find yourself staying in the projects or, low income areas. Right. See, your mom taught you that, though. It's like you always should be striving for the best. Yeah. Good. Good. All right, y'all. Well, it's 9:13. And so, like I said, if you have topics you want me to cover or you want to talk about, email me them or inbox me them, and we will motivation. Yeah. And we will cover them. So have a good Friday, and I will talk to y'all later. Yeah. Oops.
We live in a world of likes and dislikes, with social media outlets to have you feeling like you're not right. The end of the day, the end of the night, you traveling through the universe without the proper sight, so you feeling lost, definitely not right. Health is wealth and knowledge is self is wealth, so let's get it right. You still falling out with family and friends behind some pics and likes, is that right?
Let me share this knowledge with you, see it to your face.
You was created to be great.
Let me share this knowledge with you, see it to your face.
You wanna